to sleep. It can be a little bedtime story for us. Here is the 100-acre wood map. Chapter 1, in which we are introduced to Winnie-the-Pooh and some bees, and the story begins. Here is Edward Bear coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way, if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't any. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you, Winnie-the-Pooh. When I first heard his name, I said, just as you are going to say, but I thought he was a boy. So did I, said Christopher Robin. Then you can't call him Winnie. I don't. But you said he's Winnie-the-Pooh. Don't you know what there means? So here he is, bumping down, bumping, bumping, bump, 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 bumping down the stairs behind Christopher Robin. Yes, now I do, I said quickly, and I hope you do too, because it is all the explanation you are going to get. Sometimes Winnie-the-Pooh likes a game of some sort when he comes downstairs, and sometimes he likes to sit quietly in front of the fire and listen to a story. This evening, what about a story? Said Christopher Robin. What about a story? I said. Could you very sweetly tell Winnie-the-Pooh one? I suppose I could, I said. What sort of stories does he like? About himself, because he's that sort of bear. Oh, I see. So could you very sweetly? I'll try, I said. So I tried. Once upon a time, a very long time ago now, about last Friday, Winnie-the-Pooh lived in a forest all by himself under the name of Sanders. What does under the name mean? Asked Christopher Robin. It means he had the name over the door in gold letters and lived under it. Winnie-the-Pooh wasn't quite sure, said Christopher Robin. Now I am, said a growly voice. Then I will go on, said I. One day when he was out walking, he came to an open place in the middle of the forest, and sat in the middle of this, and in the middle, I can read, and in the middle of this place, which was a large oak tree, and from the top of the tree there came a loud buzzing noise. Winnie-the-Pooh sat down at the foot of the tree, put his said, and the only reason for making honey is so I can eat it. So he began to climb the tree. He climbed and he climbed and he climbed, and as he climbed, he sang a little song to himself. It went like this. Isn't it funny how a bear likes honey? Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder why he does. So here he is, looking up at the bees, buzzing, 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 buzz, 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 buzzing. And here he is climbing up the tree, climbing, 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 climbing up the tree. Then he climbed a little further, and a little further, and then just a little further. By that time, he had thought of another song. It's a very funny thought that if bears were bees, they build their nests at the bottom of trees, and that being so, if the bees were bears, we wouldn't have to climb up all these stairs. He was getting rather tired by this time, so that is why he sang a complaining song. He was nearly there now, and if he just stood on that branch, crack. Uh-oh. The branch cracked. Oh, help, said Boo as he dropped 10 feet on the branch below him. If only I hadn't, he said as he bounced 20 feet onto the next branch. You see, what I meant to do, he explained as he turned head over heels and crashed on to another branch 30 feet below. What I meant to do, of course it was rather, he admitted, as he slithered very quickly through the next 6 branches. It all comes, I suppose, he decided as he said goodbye to the last branch, spun around 3 times, and flew gracefully into a gorse bush. I think it's a gorse bush. It all comes of liking honey so much. Oh, help. He crawled out of the gorse bush, brushed the prickles from his nose, and began to think again. And the first person he thought of was Christopher Robin. Uh-oh. He got all prickly by falling into the bush. Prickly, prickly, prickly. Prickly, 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 prickly. Prickly, 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 prickly. Prickly, prickly, prickly. Prickly, 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 prickly. Prickly, prickly, prickly. Was that me? Said Christopher Robin in an odd voice, hardly daring to believe it. That was you. Christopher Robin said nothing, but his eyes got larger and larger, and his face got pinker and pinker. So Winnie-the-Pooh went round his friend Christopher Robin, who lived behind a green door in another part of the forest. Good morning, Christopher Robin, he said. Good morning, Winnie-the-Pooh, said you. The reason I said tree door is because it is in a tree. He's in the tree. I wonder if you've got such a thing as a balloon about you. A balloon? Yes, I just said to myself coming along. I wonder if Christopher Robin has such a thing as a balloon about him. I just said it to myself thinking of balloons and wondering. What do you want a balloon for? said Winnie-the-Pooh looked around to see that nobody was listening, but put his paw to his mouth and said in a deep whisper, Honey. But you don't get honey with balloons. I do, said Boo. Well, it just happened that you had been to a party the day before at the house of your friend Piglet, and you had balloons at the party. You had a big green balloon, and one of Rabbit's relations had a big blue one, and had left it behind, being very too young to go to a party at all. And so you had brought the green one and the blue one home with you. Which one would you like? You asked Boo. He put his head between his paws and thought very so fond of him, and you went home for your umbrella. Oh, there you are, called down Winnie-the-Pooh as soon as you got back to the tree. I was beginning to get anxious. I have discovered that the bees are now definitely suspicious. Shall I put my umbrella up? You said. Yes, but wait a moment. We must be practical. The important bee to deceive is the queen bee. Can you see which is the queen bee from down there? No. Ah, pity. Well, now if you walk up and down with your umbrella saying, tut tut, it looks like rain, I shall do what I can do by singing a little cloud song, such as a cloud might sing. Go. So while you walked up and down and wondered if it would rain, Winnie-the-Pooh sang his song. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. Every little cloud always sings aloud. How sweet to be a cloud floating in the blue. It makes him very proud to be a little cloud. The bees were still buzzing as suspiciously as ever. Some of them indeed left their nest and flew all around the cloud as it began the second verse of this song, and one bee sat down on the nose of the cloud for a moment and then got up again. So here you are under the umbrella, and here's Winnie-the-Pooh trying to trick the bees. Christopher, ow, Robin, called out the cloud. Yes, I have just been thinking, and I have come to a very important decision. These are the wrong sort of bees. Are they? Quite the wrong sort. So I should think they would make the wrong sort of honey, wouldn't you? Would they? Yes, so I think I shall come down. How? Asked you. Winnie-the-Pooh hadn't thought about this. If he let go of the string, he would fall, bump, and he didn't like the idea of that. So he thought for a long time, and then he said, Christopher Robin, you must shoot the balloon with your gun. Have you got your gun? Of course I have, you said. But if I do that, it will spoil the balloon, you said. But if you don't, said Pooh, I shall have to let go, and that would spoil me. When you put it like this, you saw how it was, and you aimed very carefully at the balloon and fired. Ow, said Pooh. Did I miss, you asked. You didn't exactly miss, said Pooh, but you missed the balloon. I'm so sorry, you said, and you fired again, and this time you hit the balloon, and the air came slowly out, and Winnie-the-Pooh floated to the ground. Here's one of the bees, and here he is. Winnie-the-Pooh got down. Also, when they say gun, I was like, what? But it's not. It's like a little like BB gun or like toy gun or something. See? But his arms were so stiff from holding on to the string of the balloon all that time that they stayed up straight in the air for more than a week, and whenever a fly came and settled on his nose, he had to blow it off. And I think, but I am not sure, that that is why he was always called Pooh. Is that the end of the story? Asked Christopher Robin. That's the end of that one. There are others. About Pooh and me, and Piglet and Rabbit and all of you. Don't you remember? I do remember. And then when I try to remember, I forget. That day when Pooh and Piglet tried to catch the heffalump, they didn't catch it, did they? No. Pooh couldn't because he hasn't any brain. Did I catch it? Well, that comes into the story. Christopher Robin nodded. I do remember, he said. Only Pooh doesn't very well, so that's why he likes having it told to him again, because when it's a real story, and because then it's a real story and not just a remembering. That's just how I feel, I said. Christopher Robin gave a deep sigh, picked his bear up by the leg, and walked off to the door, trailing Pooh behind him. At the door he turned and said, coming to see me have my bath. I might, I said. I didn't hurt him when I shot him, did I? Not a bit. He nodded and went out, and in a moment I heard Winnie-the-Pooh bump, 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 going up the stairs behind him. always be loving, always be kind, and always